Everybody, another episode of THD Podcast. Again, as always, I'm in Hong Kong in the East Victoria Harbor, if anybody was curious. And joining us today is Dale Lott from Spear Labs out of Tennessee. And as always, we got our co-host, Simon Weston in Japan. So, hey, Simon, how's it
Good to
going
be
today?
with you.
Good,
Very
good.
good, very good. Yeah.
And special thanks to Dale for staying at work a little late and joining us in our morning. How's it going over there, Dale?
It's fantastic. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Spear Labs. Can you tell us a bit of the backstory, how you got to be building in-ear monitors in Tennessee?
It's quite a long story, but I'll just sort of condense it. Spear is special products for the ear, Spear Labs. And many years ago, our Spear actually stood for, our customers were the tip of the spear. So I literally did a lot of work for the U.S. military, the SEAL teams, SEAL Team 6, the Marine Force Recon, all the heavy hitters, so to speak. I built communication systems for them, which were used throughout the world and still are, and built helicopter helmet systems and helmet system for the F-22 strike fighter, some of that, different parts, actually the comm cap for NASA that they used. And, so I made a natural progression from that because of my music background. I used to be a musician as well and did mixing and mastering and actually sang on stage back in the long-haired metal days. I still have my hair. And if I let it out, you'd go, oh yeah, he's still a crazy guy. But, taking all the things that I learned from military applications and then having the ear, master audio ear, I sort of put those together many years ago and started a company called Aurasonics, which kind of went worldwide and did really well. And then a well-known company called Fender came along and wanted to buy it. And of course, we struck a deal and did that for a few years, and then had enough of the corporate world and came back to Spear Labs, and now we're just making the most radical, amazing in-ear monitors literally on the planet, the most cutting edge materials, driver combinations, and we make things unlike anyone else does. Nobody makes things the way we do. So, and it's done quite well for us, even with all the, the market sort of dropped and everyone's kind of trying to find their way through this. We're still doing, well, which is kind of nice, so very blessed for that.
So
can I just ask, sorry, Dale, can I just ask, what's the sort of the key feature of an in-ear monitor as opposed to an in-ear earphone or other types of earbuds? What characterizes it?
They're kind of called different things: in-ear headphones, earphones, in-ear monitors, and sort of key distinctions. An in-ear monitor is typically used for stage, like a custom in-ear monitor for stage use. So, some artist, musician would use it while playing on stage, guitar, drums, singer, whatever. And those configurations and the way you convey the sound is a bit different for a monitor because you're using it for to hear yourself when you're performing, versus, let's say, an earphone or an in-ear headphone, which is more tailored towards listening to music. Someone like an audiophile or someone jogging or whatever, they want to hear the music the way it was intended to be heard from the artist. An in-ear monitor is used by an artist to make that music. So,
right.
And what's the construction like? So is that a completely occluded air insert, or is there leakage?
Yeah, typically with a monitor, you want as much occlusion as possible. You want to block out exterior sound because you want to hear what you're monitoring. So typically when I make an in-ear monitor, there's no outside noise being presented into the ear. There's stage volume, like, the sound of the drums. It's pretty loud. Sometimes you have guitar players with, a bunch of guitar amps, like back in the 80s when I was doing my
Marshall
thing.
stack.
Walls, Marshalls, like, it's kind of crazy. But now it's not as noisy on stage because people are learning, you don't need all that, but still on occasion can get pretty loud. And the PA system, the audio for the concert can get quite loud, and even though it's facing into the crowd, it's still filling that room, and you want to kind of block that out. Because you ever seen like someone sing Star Spangled Banner at a concert? Oh, sing can you see? And it's got this the echo, and it just messes with their head because the sound comes back to them delayed from when they sing it, and it's very hard to do that. So they have to block out everything to make sure that's right. So
it's almost like us talking over each other a bit on the Zoom call here. It's that latency affects us in our response, and then a performer on stage, the latency will mess them up. Especially if they're trying to play in sync as a trio or a group. If you're hearing what's coming bouncing off the back of the auditorium and coming back at you, you'll be out of sync with the other players. So that's kind of
exactly. So it makes it much harder to do. So you want to block that out as much as possible. So.
Right. Interesting. So you mentioned about occlusion of the ear, and that's all done passively with different materials to seal it up, and probably some custom molds for the player.
A lot of the musicians really like the custom in-ear. There's a lot of people doing customs, have been for years. I do something very specifically different from everybody in the market, and my customs have a solid shell, and the rest of the world makes like a skin, and they cram the drivers down in there. 24 drivers in each ear, whatever it is this week. I'm not a real big fan of as many drivers as you can put in something. I'd rather put a quality single driver in, or as few as possible with the highest quality, so you don't have as many phase issues. Heck, you have hardly any, and the distortion goes relative to zero. And those things make for an amazing sounding in-ear. So, back to the custom thing, that shell, when you mount a driver in it, like a dynamic, the dynamic vibrates when it makes sound, and it has to be held by something to push the diaphragm. So if you just put a speaker out in space, it won't make as much sound as if you held it still and then let it move the air. So that vibration couples to the shell, and that custom fit shell couples to your ear, which in turn enhances the whole audio spectrum of what you hear, what you perceive changes, because your auditory system is vibrating in sync with the sound it's hearing, which makes it sound much bigger, which is pretty amazing, honestly.
Interesting. And
so is there a core module that holds the drivers, and then you mount that inside something, or you're building?
No, literally, when we do the CAD work, we have the model for the driver, and we carve out the area of the shell that's your ear for that driver to fit. Then all the routing or the porting is done in the CAD work. So when it's 3D printed, it's solid, and it has all the tubing, all the porting, all the different things that speaker needs to sound correct. It's in the shell. We don't have to add that. So makes a huge difference in the sound, and it's what I've been doing from day one.
So it's kind of a standard cavity, and then the fit is kind of a wrap around that for each user, and they go through a molding process, or?
No, we get an ear impression. Let me see if I have some on my desk. Yeah, so here's someone's ear. This is an ear impression.
Yeah.
So it's the silicone mold of their ear. And I made these Saturday of a gospel group called the Isaacs. So I went and did their ear impressions, and then actually right here, there's a scanner right here. The scanner, we use that to digitize that impression, and then we smooth some things out and shape it slightly, and then it goes into CAD software where we then take the model of the driver, let's say single dynamic, such as this Jericho driver here. We take that, and that model would be used to literally carve out the solid shell, and then all the routing and tubing would be put in there in the CAD as well, the computer-aided design software. Then that model is in 3D printed, and then sanded and smoothed and painted and done, all the things that we're wanting to do with it, or that customer wants customization. And then the drivers go in, and everything's wired up and tested, and shipped out the door.
Wow! So it's they're customized across the board. So every product that ships is somewhat unique, but maybe the drivers are consistent. But
when it's a CIEM, it's a custom in-ear monitor, then there's an actual customization of the shape to that specific person's actual ear.
Right.
And we've got a couple of lines. There's a new custom in-ear coming out very soon in Hong Kong. Your audience will be wanting to get their hands on this, I'm sure. It's called the Triton Infinity. And the Triton Infinity is unlike any custom ever made. The shell is actually made out of a metal called Trillium, and it's an alloy that I worked on for many months perfecting. It's a titanium, beryllium, and aluminum combination to make it it's perfection in audio. The way it tonally rings and the way it resonates. Trillium is an amazing metal. We are the only ones who have it. The mixture is a trade secret, and we actually make the shells from Trillium right here at our lab with all the equipment. So we have all the metal casting equipment and melting and investing and all the things that you do with casting. We make that. Now, so you take the Trillium shell, and if you were to take the Trillium shell and you hang it by a wire and you hit it, it'll go ding. It's weird because it's a lightweight metal, but yet it still has enough rigidity to have that ting to it. Now, you don't always want that, because you remember when you couple the driver to the shell, it actually makes it ring. It'll resonate. It'll have a certain resonance frequency. So what I went, and there was an issue with the Trillium. It oxidizes like really fast. So you can't just leave it open. So you have to coat it. So I came up with a coating. It's a carbon ceramic coating, which is sprayed onto the shell, and then it's fired at almost just about melt temperature for the Trillium. The carbon ceramic is fired onto the surface, and it becomes smooth, and it attaches itself molecularly to the Trillium metal. Now, when it cools down, it's not glowing anymore. It's literally, bulletproof for all intents and purposes. I've literally taken a set of shells and drug them behind my vehicle up the gravel driveway for a long ways just to see if it would scratch. Nothing. I put it under the tire of my truck and ran over it just to prove a point.
It's indestructible. It is the most amazing stuff. You could make a custom in-ear monitor out of Trillium and carbon ceramic. I came up with that. It's one of my one of the things I like to do is, change the game, bring new things to the game, experiment. Spear Labs, it's a lab. I'm the mad scientist. I get mad a lot, trust me. But I do have these aha moments at times when things work, and I go, wow, that would be an incredible thing to make a beautiful product out of. So that custom in-ear with the Trillium and the carbon ceramic. The lid is silver, pure silver. And silver has a tonal quality all to its own self. And when you put all those things together and you put the specific driver combination together with its solid shell, you literally have the most breathtaking sounding piece of audio gear ever made. And we make that here. In a little town called Charlotte, Tennessee, out in the middle of nowhere. So
that's very cool.
What do you do in terms of audio tuning? Does each customer have their own preferences, or they are presented with choices, or you have a preset sort of optimal?
For the custom set, we have a sort of a one that's tuned about what they would get from their customs. Honestly, every set is going to be slightly different. You're going to have variances in the amount of mass for a different person's ear, and so you may not get the exacting gold standard on every one as far as a reference audio signature or sound signature, but it's in some cases it'll sound better. In some cases it'll sound slightly not as good as the reference sample. It just depends on the person's ear. And we do a lot of different things to tune that. The air volume behind the driver, the porting behind the driver, all the little things that you add to a speaker to dampen certain frequencies and so on and so forth. One thing I learned a long time ago, a spectrum analyzer is honestly useless, other than allowing you to see that something looks the same as something else, or you have a reference and you compare something against it, or you're looking to see, hey, is there something that sticks out that we can tune. I tend to use my ears more than anything, because you can't hear distortion, or you can't see distortion necessarily in a spectrum analyzer, although there's a setting to read distortion. Your ears don't lie, and when you use those to tune, you get a much better product. Honestly, that's my opinion, and it seems to be working for me. So,
wow.
Does the response tend to be bass heavy, bass light? Would people go for a fairly recessed bass?
The market in let's say Asia, for example, is likes a fairly balanced sound, maybe mid-high pushed. So we tend to try to tailor a specific product for that market with that type of tuning. There is on occasion people who want very bass heavy sound, and for me, with a dynamic driver, that's quite easy to do and achieve. In the past, I had a tunable bass port. It was the first company to do that, and you could literally tune the amount of bass response. Because you had a dynamic, you could open the back up or close off that tuning and get a significant amount of bass boost, around, let's say 100 hertz to 200 hertz right in there. It really bumped it up, as much as 10 or 12 dB, which is significant in a bass signature. So
was that a mechanical kind of port tuning on the device?
It was mechanical, yeah. And that, you may see the reappearance of that. Yeah, so.
Very interesting. And so I guess something that might be interesting for people is to know, like, a lot of the materials and the housings are all made in the U.S. Now, you still need some of the supply chain coming out of Asia for some of the parts, or elsewhere, cables and connectors, and how does that supply chain affect your production issues?
Well, definitely, we make as much as we can literally right here. I've got 3 rules of business. First rule of business is you got to have fun doing it. The second rule is you got to make money doing it. We got to eat. I got kids, Yeah. We all do. And the third rule is you got to be able to do it in-house. Now, that don't mean we have to do everything here, but it means you do business with people who you trust and who you can work well together with, and who we both have each other's back, so to speak. When I need something, they supply it. When they need something, we supply it. We go back and forth. But we very much try to make every part in our lab, if possible. All the shells, all the casting, all the 3D printing, all the painting, all those, the bulk of the in-ear itself we make right here. Drivers do come from other manufacturers, and we have partnerships with a lot of different manufacturers around the world, and cable manufacturers when we need certain things, packaging. So we can't do it all here, but we like to do the stuff that really makes a difference. It makes us shine here because it gives us an edge. So
yeah, I mean, I would use the term kind of controlling your destiny. I've seen some brands come to Asia and they farm it out to factories, and they kind of lose control over perhaps what's special about their products, and then also kind of the R&D, which is replicate and duplicate for Guangdong province. That causes problems as well. So I find that very interesting. As a technology-driven company, you really have to be in control of your destiny, and being more vertically integrated is one definite way to do it. Now, I guess as you scale, do you see that as a problem? Like, if right now you're kind of in an audio performer or specialized hi-fi category, but if you got a runner and it spilled over into consumer, do you think you could manage all that in Tennessee, or how would you see that?
Yeah, I have partnerships with some people in the U.S. that are powerhouses in the manufacturing side of things, and if we see something that's going to really take off, which we got a few things in the pipeline that might actually do that, we'll team up with them, of course, to help us with the manufacturing. And honestly, I've been developing, I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I've been developing ways of manufacturing earphone related products in mass, but doing it in a completely different way from everyone else that gives you a much better quality product and much more robust and much more waterproof and on and on and on. So those things we would make them manufacturing trade secrets and actually make them here in the U.S. with some parts from overseas, of course, but I'm going to definitely try to do as much as I can here. Just for the control factor of it, I have in the past seen, I was at an audio show and a friend of mine came up to me and says, "Bro, they have your earphones over here." And I'm like, "What?" And I walked out there and I was like, "Wow, they literally replicated and duplicated," as you mentioned, something I built, and I was not real happy about that. So and I see that a lot, we'll just leave that one alone. I get aggravated about that. So
you mentioned 3D print, using 3D print for real product manufacturing. Do you think that it's fairly recent that it's been at that standard, or for quite some time that 3D print has been capable of?
I'll tell you what, I think yeah, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I know it's very true, as I really pioneered that in the earphone space. All of the Aurosonic stuff was 3D printed. All of the Fender stuff was 3D printed. All of our stuff here now is 3D printed. Although we do cast the stuff out of metal, it starts as a 3D printed wax model. So 3D printing, I think, is going to be useful into the future as the technology progresses and becomes more widely available. You know, I saw me using it for all of my products, all the manufacturing, and then pretty much everyone's adopted that now. I'm not saying it was because of me that they did that. I'm just saying I was definitely in the pioneering aspect of it and in on the ground floor, and I saw the potential in it early on, and partnered with 3D Systems, which was a pretty good company. And you know, they just actually one guy in particular who's out on his own now, Guthrie Mason. He's been very instrumental at helping me over the years with the 3D printing and getting that going. So excellent.
Oh, I wanted to ask your opinion on one on one point that you just touched on earlier. You were talking about dynamic drivers. I want to know what's your opinion on dynamic versus balanced armature? Do you prefer one or the other?
Well, that is a funny question to ask me, because I'm the guy that put them together. So the patents on I mean, everybody's had their own version, but I definitely was one of the first guys to file patent on the balanced armature and the dynamic together. And, you know, the hybrid was born, right? So one of the problems with a dynamic is it has great low end. There's terrible mids and highs when you put it in an earphone. So you have to boost those typically with you know, a balanced armature that's made for mids and highs. I do not like an all BA earphone. Don't plan on ever making one again. I did that at Fender. It was one of the things they wanted to do, but wasn't really my thing. I will probably, well, let me just say there's some new technology with dynamics that I've become aware of and will be using here in the very near future that has changed my mind completely on how with just a pure dynamic now can make mids and highs. It can be a full frequency, full spectrum speaker and give you the ultimate in audio quality from one speaker. I call that the power of one. So.
All right.
So the main problem with the balanced armature is a lack of low frequency power. Is it fair to say?
Well, low frequency BAs, they can't put out the low end of a dynamic. It just can't be done. They just can't move the air. I don't care how many you put in there. You know, with everybody putting 4 ginormous, you know, BAs, they're not going to touch a 12 millimeter dynamic. It's just not going to happen. So, and then you have the expense, and you have the phase problems, the phase inconsistency, incoherency between multiple balanced armatures trying to make all that work. And then, you know, there's another company out there that has coined a few phrases on tuning balanced armatures with phase and frequencies and things like that. But I just think it's BA only, to me, is kind of a mess. And up until now, dynamics by themselves in the earphone have not been optimal, and that's why I put 2 together and I had the hybrid. The Triton series, Triton, has 3 different types of drivers. It has a dynamic, it has BAs for mids, and then it has a magnetostatic for the high frequencies, which you put those three together, and they sound really good, especially in a solid shell made out of titanium and obsidian glass and sterling silver. So I'm interested to see what we can do with a single dynamic that's full frequency coming soon. So,
Okay. And like just so people know, how many products are already in market? What's kind of the roadmap looking like for product launches in this funny year we have?
Yeah, this is an interesting year. I definitely had a different product launch schedule up until about, I don't know, March. Yeah, when we saw each other back in January at CES and NAMM, it was a completely different trajectory, but it's sort of changed a bit. So good question. Triton 1 is currently in the market. A lot of the Triton 1s have been sold in the Hong Kong area. The market there really has embraced my products over the years. Very, very helpful distributor there, and they Soundwave, and they do a fantastic job for me. Love those guys. Let's see. We just launched something new. It's called Cross. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know about me, very much a Christian person, and everything I've ever made had a little cross inside it. Everything that went into battle with the Navy SEALs had a little cross inside it. Every in-ear monitor that's been on stage had a little cross inside it. And I call that the maker's mark. So back late 2019, I was literally kind of praying about this, and I was like, God, what do you want me to do next with this cross? And he says, put it on the outside. And I was like, okay. So we launched a product called Cross by Spear Labs here last week, and it's a custom only product specifically marketed direct sales towards the worship musician market, right. Musicians who play at churches and things like that. So that is something we just launched, and it's already starting to take off, and kind of very happy to see that. Now, what's coming next is a Triton Zero, which I'll give you a little glimpse of that. It's a beautiful little bad boy. It's rose gold and rhodium and silver, and it's just, there's nothing like it on the planet. Literally, from the beauty of the product and the sound signature, sound quality is just immaculate. And so that's the Triton Zero. It'll be coming very soon. And then also we're launching the Triton Infinity, which is the custom in-ear monitor. So Triton 1 was first. We kind of backed up, went with Triton Zero. And it's a more high-end product than the Triton 1. And then Triton Infinity is the custom. The custom version is really tuned a lot like the Triton Zero as far as the sound signature, but the metals are different. Of course, it has the Trillium shell, custom fit to your ear, and then it's carbon ceramic coated, and then has the sterling silver lid, and then obsidian glass inlay for the Spear logo. You'll have this on the outside, which is pretty cool.
Do you ever run, some of these materials sound pretty exotic. I mean, the Trillium is custom to you. Is there any kind of concerns about supply of those materials? Is it easy to get? You got it all queued up, or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I have enough supply for a long period of time. I had to buy some bulk of each one of those metals, and then we've alloyed them here. So we make the ingots of the alloy. There's a couple of them on my desk. So like this is an ingot of Trillium that's been alloyed. There's a bigger one, and we'll literally drop those into the melting furnace, a crucible and bring them to temperature under an argon gas cover so that the oxygen doesn't react with it, and then that's cast under high pressure into the investment, which is like it's kind of like plaster, but it's way better. It's like ceramic, really, and you literally have to break away the ceramic to get the parts out of the investment. So,
wow, sounds exciting. Pretty amazing process to make a housing as well, and almost impossible for anybody to just kind of rock up and enter your category if you've got such a unique process to your manufacturing. It really sets you apart.
That's definitely one of the things I try to do. Keeps people on their toes and makes it extremely hard to copy. If you won't even get close to this, you'll never have Trillium. No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to alloy it like we do, and we'll always know if you copied it. So
is just a kind of an oddball question, but is your background developing military products? Does that help you with any of the sourcing of these metals, or are any of these metals on like an embargo list or something?
Well, so this is a funny thing. Now, I do use metals from other things, and I do this on purpose, like to answer your point more specifically. A lot of the metal a lot of the titanium we use has been alloyed from parts from an SR-71, like the Blackbird.
Yeah.
So a crashed and are a aircraft that's been destroyed, taken apart, and they sell the parts. Each piece comes with serialized and authenticated, and we take that and cut it up and melt it down.
Do you use that in your marketing? Do you use that in your marketing, that it's from the Black?
We can't use the SR-71 thing. The U.S. government would come after us, so we use Cold War spy plane, parts, and then have a picture of it sitting there. So,
Yeah, if anybody knows the backstory on how was Lockheed got all that titanium, that was kind of a Cold War cloak and dagger process to acquire them.
Yeah, the whole thing. So it kind of rolls into what we do, and then the obsidian is volcanic glass. So the lid on the Triton 1. When I went to Ireland, I sourced some large chunks of obsidian, and then had it shipped here, and then we use that to that process in itself. I dare anyone to try that. That's not, you will never figure that out. Trying to make a lid for an IEM out of glass, out of volcanic glass, keep it black, and then not have it shatter completely in your hands and you get destroyed. It's next to impossible.
Yeah.
The amount of labor that goes into each set is beyond belief. And honestly, we probably could have charged twice what we do for them. The Triton 1 is $24.99 US, and the Triton 0 come in around $29.99, and then the Triton Infinity will be about $4,000. So.
All right, so that's a good segue. We can put is there online sales that we could put a link in the description for people to go shopping?
I'd like you to link with our distributor in Hong Kong, Soundwave.
Okay.
I can send you that specifically, and Derek Poon or Richard Chong, amazing guys over there, can assist you, and people who are listening to purchase. There's a lot of stores in Hong Kong and even in China now that have our stuff. And soon to be in other parts of the world as well. Europe sells a Triton, and soon in Japan. So,
all right, very cool. Okay, it sounds like it's some pretty amazing products that people have to kind of hear and hold to really get the experience. So we'll put those links down below. Simon, do you have anything further you'd like to ask Dale?
I did actually just want to go back to just a sort of a technicality. I'm curious about how you're coupled to the ear canal in terms of sealing, because you said you're using a hard shell.
Yeah, so on a custom, the coupling to the ear is accomplished by the custom fit itself. There's no tip, right? So your ear canal shape is your tip, and that hard shell fits you exactly. It's your body shape. So you don't need any kind of additional seal to get a perfect seal. Now flip that around. On a generic product or like the Triton, the nozzle on the Triton is not shaped like your ear. it's cylindrical, so you have to have a tip to couple to the ear to seal that off. Now there's various ways to do that. There's a lot of people who use silicone tips. I sort of pioneered a different material for tips, and then of late I started looking at foam tips. I looked at the various manufacturers of foam tips. There's a lot of Chinese companies making foam tips, and there's Comply tips and lots of different things. But when I started testing them, they just fall apart like very quickly. And sweat, especially in Hong Kong, you sweat a lot, and you try to use a foam tip in Hong Kong, and it doesn't last very long. It literally falls apart. Or one of the other things is when you heat foam, it doesn't have any rebound capability. It literally loses its elasticity, so it crushes and it just stays that way. Or if it's cold, if you're in like Alaska or Dave's home country, Canada. He's up there trying to use a foam tip, and you go to put it in your ear, and it's a rock. It's hard as a rock. So what I looked at was trying to have a formulation of foam that allows you to have extreme temperature resistance. And I worked with a company that helped. We came up with that, and now we have a new foam tip called Inform. The letter N is a small N, and FORM. Here's a sample right here. This will be the new Inform tip packaging. No one's seen this yet, so your audience gets to see it first. Inform XTR. XTR stands for Extreme Temperature Resistance. Well, what's cool about Inform XTR is if you compared it with a Comply tip, let's say, just use that one. You put them in the freezer. You put the Inform tip and the Comply tips in the freezer, and then you pull them out, and then you try to squeeze them. The Comply tip is hard as a rock. The Inform tip is still resilient, just as if it was at room temperature. Now flip that around. You put the Comply tip with the Inform tip in heat. Now the Comply tip you squish it and it just stays, or it rebounds just so quickly it has no force whatsoever to seal anymore. The Inform XTR tip will still maintain this specific amount of resiliency throughout a very wide temperature spectrum or temperature range. So, that's one aspect. Plus, Inform is antimicrobial. It lasts much longer. It's much more pliable and softer than the other foam tips out there. They just fit better. They're a better foam tip than anything on the market. I guarantee it. So look for Inform to hit the shelves really soon. They are a part of all the Triton products right now. The Inform tips come standard with the Triton products. So if you buy a Triton 1 or a 0, you'll have your hands on some Inform tips.
So those are that's exclusive kind of foam technology for only Spear Labs products?
Yes, we're the only one who has it. So.
And do you also sell those tips aftermarket? It looks like they're packaged for aftermarket sale as well.
Yeah, they will be. That's the final packaging that you just saw, and that's what'll hit the market really soon. So.
All right, very good. Okay, so that's some exciting stuff. Very cool to see what you're doing over there. Anything else you'd like to add, Dale, before we call it a day here?
Yeah, we could talk for hours. I love audio. Like I said, been in this biz a long time, and I love what I'm doing, and I love working with people like yourself, Dave, and it's been a good experience. You know, pays the bills, allowed me to have a standard of living that's I may not have had otherwise, and comfort, and it's it's pretty cool. So,
all right. Well, I guess we won't flog a dead horse here. We think we've got some good information on everything about your brand and company and your process. It sounds very exciting, and we'll put the links below so people can access the Hong Kong Disty to get a hold of these things. So I guess thank you so much, Dale, for joining us. Thanks, Simon, as always, for ringing in from Japan, and all the people out there watching. If you like what we're doing every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern. We launch a new show, so click like and subscribe if you want to keep up with us. All right, so thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Cool. Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Dave.
Bye.